So I think we'll go ahead and get started. I know some folks might come in later. If anything happens to your connection to this feed, we are going to post a recording of this meeting on our website. So we'll be able to share that recording after the meeting is done. If anybody has any questions about that, definitely you can type that into the chat. You can also email us at either director@beavercreekwetlands.org or admin@beavercreekwetlands.org. Both of those email addresses, that gets to me and our administrative coordinator, Beth Edsall. So if you have questions now or at any time after this, you can definitely get in touch with us that way. All right, so I want to welcome everybody to the Beaver Creek Wetlands first virtual meeting, virtual annual meeting. It's a very new thing for us. We've obviously never done this before, and we are going with this format in light of the social restrictions that have come along with the COVID-19 pandemic. So in order to keep all of us safe but connected and informed, we decided to try our meeting out in this format. What everyone as an attendee should have access to is a bar at the bottom of your screen that looks something like this. You can ask questions via that chat feature. Let's see if I can, there it is right there. And again, if your question isn't addressed immediately and we move on to a different topic, we will definitely get back to all questions. If you feel like we missed your question, feel free to type it in again. But we're going to be moderating that feature as closely as possible. So today, well, first I should introduce myself. I haven't had the opportunity really to meet a lot of members yet because of the way that this pandemic has panned out, pun intended. So my name is Blythe Hazleaf. I'm the Executive Director of the Beaver Creek Wetlands Association. I've been with the organization since last September. I'm really happy to be here. I'm glad that we're able to get together, at least in this limited way. The other folks available to us on video and audio, sort of our panelists for today's meeting, are our President, Dave Nolan, our Vice President, Jim Amon, our Secretary, Sue Reitel, our Treasurer, Tom McCrate. Eric B. is the Chair of our Governance Committee, so he's here as well, and our new Administrative Coordinator, Beth Edsall. So as those folks speak up at any point, you should be able to see them. As attendees, you might be able to see their video feed, depending on how you have your view set up. But yeah, everybody, all those panelists are here in person and ready to hopefully get you guys up to date and answer any questions that you have. I'd like to acknowledge our current trustees, both the continuing and outgoing trustees. So the trustees that will be continuing with us this year include Tom McCrate, Sue Reitel, Jim Schneider, the Chair of our Land Management Committee, Rob Evans, our Webmaster and former President, Eric B., who I've recently mentioned, he's the Chair of our Governance Committee, and one of our newer trustees, Rob Fortman. Bittersweetly, this year we are saying goodbye to 3 of our longtime trustees, at least for their at the expiration of their current term. Anna Kamyev, Shannon Mueller, and Mike Zimmerman. Anna is leaving us earlier than her term actually required. She got a job with the Ohio EPA, Division of Surface Water, I believe, and she's moving with her family to Columbus. So she's been a longtime supporter of ours and a really wonderful trustee, and we're going to miss her a lot. Shannon and Mike are staying in the area. They're not going anywhere, but they are leaving the board this year. I definitely want to thank everyone for their hard work. When we talk about the volunteer hours, here in a little bit, you're going to see just how hard our board works. They work very hard. At any point in this, as I'm going through, I encourage my panelists to jump in with any comments or anything like that. Since we're not at a podium, one microphone, we can all kind of interact a little bit more. So feel free to jump in if I'm forgetting anything. The other person that I think I'd like to just make sure I introduce clearly, which I mentioned her earlier, but is our new administrative coordinator, Beth Edsall. She's here on video. She's been with us since February. And so it's her and I that that try to organize the majority of the administrative work that the organization does, a lot of the logistics and things like that. We're sort of the office people. So as you interact with the organization more and more throughout the upcoming years, hopefully you will hear a lot from the two of us. All right, we do have some financials to go over as we do every year. Our treasurer, Tom Crate, is going to go over the financials with you. Tom, do you need me to give you control of the slide, or?
That would be good, please.
Let me make sure that I can do that. You guys are really seeing the behind the scenes sort of technical stuff. That's okay.
Our first slide is the first of the statement of activities, and our total funds that we received in 2019 were about 10,000, 12,000 greater than in the previous year. The distribution was a little different. Our membership dues were down somewhat, but our grants and restricted funds were substantially up. And that's in large part due to a contribution from the Greene County Parks and Trails organization, which helped us out immensely. In terms of expenses, again, our expenses were higher this year than in the previous year, but we still had a net income of $1,400. And in terms of things that we spent money on, a couple notable examples were in the area of engagement. We commissioned and installed signs at the Siebenthaler Finn that are very informative, and if you've been out there, I'm sure you've enjoyed those. We also began work at Hunters Point. And there's a slide there showing a beautiful view of that area. In addition, we have our statement of financial position, which in this slide outlines our assets. You can see that we have more cash than we did last year, or in 2019 we had more than in the previous year. So our assets were up slightly. One of the things that we spent money on was a tractor and mower that we're currently using to help maintain some of the prairie areas. And that's a photograph of the tractor with one of our hardworking trustees, Jim Snyder, operating the tractor. And then lastly, we have a slide showing the balance of the financial position statement with our liabilities and equity. So in all, we're, I think, in good shape. One thing that I would ask is that if there's a CPA or somebody in the audience that knows a CPA that would like to act as an advisor, it would be greatly appreciated if someone would step forward and do that for us. I'll turn it back over to you, Blythe.
Thanks. Yeah, that's something that if anybody wants to recommend someone or send our information to someone, again, if you want to contact us later about that, definitely email myself or Beth. One of the highlights this year is a piece of property that the Beaver Creek Wetlands Association owns and that we've been working on for a long time. Most of us know it as the Fairborn Marsh, located north of New Germany Trevine Road, right across from the ODNR wildlife area. This year we have decided to rename the property in honor of one of our longest and hardest working organization members, Dr. Jim Amen. So it's with great happiness and honor that we have renamed this property the James P. Amen Biodiversity Reserve. These are some recent photographs of the property where the organization has been putting in so many hours. The photo that you saw earlier of Jim Schneider on the tractor mowing, that was on this property. Mowing is one of the techniques that we use to work on invasive control in the upland prairie area. He was mowing brambles at the time. We've run fall campaigns to do a large-scale native tree planting in that upland prairie, which is something that we completed a few seasons ago, and we continue to maintain that. That's one of the projects that requires quite a bit of maintenance, and it's something that we work hard on every season. And if you have a chance to come out and see this property, we have a bluebird trail established there. So the box you see here, that is not a bluebird. That is, of course, a tree swallow. But that bluebird trail, we have so many boxes up that it attracts a number of cavity nesters. So I was just out there today taking the majority of these photos. And if you want to come out and see that space, you'll see nesting tree swallows, nesting house wrens, and in fact, nesting bluebirds. I did see some nesting bluebird swallows out there. So that's a beautiful property. We're really happy to dedicate it to Dr. Amen. And we're excited to keep working on it. It's going to be an amazing spot to visit. And it is in fact a very biodiverse area. So we look forward to seeing you guys out there. Some other highlights from 2019. These were two of the major projects that we worked on last year. One was that we were awarded a Clean Ohio grant to restore the property at the Hunters Point Reserve. That's one of our newest, I guess it is really our newest property. It's currently protected with an easement. That's part of the grant was to secure the funds to easement, and the rest of the funds have gone to a large scale planting, so invasive control and more planting of native plants in the prairie area primarily. If I'm correct, and I'll let Dave chime in here if he has better details than me, but we just finished that planting last week. And so I think that the folks at Cardno are done now with the vegetation, or is there still more to do, Dave?
They have completed their assignment. I think they did a great job. Handing the ball over to us to take care of the property.
That's great. Yeah. So I think the number that I heard last week was that they were putting in the last 10,000 plants. Does that sound right?
Yes.
Yeah. So just in the most recent planting, prior to that, they had even they planted even more. So yeah, so once we contract through a partner like Cardno to do the large scale restoration work like that, then the property is in our hands to continue our stewardship. And so from here on out, we're going to work on continued invasive control, maintenance of those planted areas. You can see in the image here, there are some walking paths that have already been established. We're going to revisit that design, and I'm going to speak a little bit about that toward the end of today's meeting. But yet another really beautiful space, one that you have to access through the Hunters Point subdivision, which I don't know if you guys can see my mouse in your display, but the subdivision just to the west of this space is Hunters Point, and you actually enter the property through a few public accesses in that subdivision. So if you need details on how to get there, you can check our website, or you can again shoot us an email and we can get back to you. Another big event that we had in 2019 was our Beaver Creek tornado recovery tree distribution. We partnered with Five Rivers Metro Parks, who generously donated several hundred native trees, which we were then able to distribute to some of the residents of Beaver Creek who had lost trees or experienced property damage because of the Memorial Day tornado in 2019. We were really excited to take part in an initiative like this. Is kind of a new thing for us. We normally plant our native trees in our conservation areas. So it was nice to be able to get some native trees out to the residents and get them planted in people's yards. We have another distribution coming up, which I'll get to talk about. I feel like this one was a success, but the next one's going to be even better. Just a little bit more information about how things went in 2019. We put in a lot of hours in 2019 toward a lot of efforts. As you can see, the way that volunteer hours kind of pan out for our organization, most of our work goes toward land management itself. And that's our stewardship of our properties. That takes a lot of forms. It could be, you're going to hear it time and again, invasive control. We spend a lot of time trying to keep areas of honeysuckle and reed canary grass and other invasives like calla repair. We do a lot of work to keep those species under control so that our good native species can flourish. But land management means a lot more. It includes trail maintenance and plantings and things like that. So mowing as both a form of invasive control and the natural cycle of natives in upland prairie areas. So we spend most of our time on that management, but to run a nonprofit requires administrative work as well. So our board, which is an all volunteer board, put in more than 1,900 hours of their time last year cumulatively toward both land management and those administrative tasks like board meetings and things like that. They work really hard, and we all appreciate them very much. The education hours that you see there include things like our guided hikes, some of our nature programs, some of our offerings like our monarch tagging festival that we typically do in September. So far this year, as you guys can imagine, because of the social distancing guidelines around this COVID-19 situation, we haven't had as many educational. The lockdown really started right when our season would normally pick up for things like hikes. So we haven't gotten to do a lot of that this year, and we miss it a lot, but hopefully we'll be able to work some things out starting in the fall. And we will definitely keep the membership updated with those events as they become available. Okay. Another sort of insight into the work that we do here at the Beaver Creek Wetlands Association. This is a summary of our land management work particularly. So breaking down the different types of land stewardship that we engage in throughout the year. I mentioned invasive control, planting, general property maintenance, boardwalk and trail construction. That's something that we have always done as an organization. If everyone has been out and about in the wetlands, they've seen our boardwalks, often designed by Mr. Jim Schneider and built with crews of volunteers. So we work really hard to get those boardwalks built, and we have a lot of that coming up, which I'll get to share with you guys soon, which is really exciting. But this is the kind of work that we engage in for the most part. In 2020, we have several big projects coming up. The fall native tree distribution, so similar to the tornado recovery program that we ran last fall, we get to have an even larger scale distribution this coming fall. Originally, this distribution was scheduled for, I guess we had it scheduled for the end of April this year, but we had to cancel it because of the restrictions on crowds and things like that. So we're working to design a large scale but very safe way to get these trees distributed to the public. We've received several really generous funding opportunities from different sources that are going to allow us to have, I think, a very, very successful program. So first, we received an anonymous $13,000 donation to fund generally efforts to distribute native trees. And then we were awarded $12,500 from the Arbor Day Foundation, who was distributing grants from FedEx. Those two sources alone will allow us to distribute more than 500 trees in the fall. We're hoping to extend that program even a little bit more and be able to offer some trees to schools and not just residents, but other resources in Beaver Creek, so that we can get more and more native trees planted here within the watershed. The other very exciting project that we have that I know we've spoken to the membership about a little bit is our Spotted Turtle Trail project. So we have a general goal, if you haven't heard already, of connecting all of our wetlands with a regional trail. And in the end, that trail will be something like 14 miles long. It will be a very significant regional trail. Well, this year we're in the early planning phase for what we're calling phase 1. So hopefully you can see in that image on your screen, our plan is to develop the trail from Phillips Park up to Hunters Point, which is the property I mentioned earlier. So there are some trails that already exist there. Our goal is to connect everything, improve the trails, make them accessible. And we've created a trail project subcommittee that a lot of us are actually on, because this is such a big project for our organization. And as this work gets underway, we're going to obviously keep the membership updated, both through our website and through emails, to let you guys know how that project is going. I don't know, does anybody have anything they want to add about our 2020 projects? Okay, Beth, have there been any questions in the chat that we need to address? I figured you can chime in if you have them, but
Nope, nothing so far.
okay, great. All right, another change that's coming here in 2020 is that we've updated our membership schedule. So as members, you guys hopefully have already received or will receive in the next few days the membership renewal notification for May of 2020, which obviously is now into June. When you get that renewal, you'll see that we've updated our membership schedule. So we just made a few changes. We have increased our annual dues. We've changed the categorizations of membership. So you'll notice that there are fewer categories of membership, but the same options are all there. So individual, family, student, senior, and then of course our lifetime members. Moving forward, memberships will last 12 months from the date of renewal. So if you've been with us for a while, you'll notice that we always in the past have done renewals in May. So regardless of when you may have paid your annual dues, you would get a renewal request in May. We're changing that to a month-to-month program. So you can expect to hear from us, 12 months after you renew with a notification to renew again the following year. If you have any questions about how that membership system has changed, or if you have any questions about how to renew or anything like that, definitely email myself or Beth at admin@beavercreekwetlands.org. And you can go to our website now and see an updated page for membership that hopefully will answer any questions that you have.
Blythe, we do have a question.
Sure.
How many separate parks do we have?
That's a really good question. We have quite a few properties that are not open to the public, so they're not quite advertised as a park per se. I don't have a number off the top of my head because I'd have to count which ones we would consider a park and which ones we would consider just a conservation area. So does anybody else, Jim or Dave, do you guys have a number for the number of properties that have public access?
Yeah, Blythe, if you look at the little bookmark that we have, we really have 9 areas where people have parking access, and that's the best way to describe what we have. Yeah. Those places also have trails associated with them. We own or have conservation easement on several other properties, and one coming online is owned by the Greene County Parks and Trails Pearl's Fen will be open soon, and that does
Yeah.
have a trail and parking lot. So that would bring things up to maybe 10 like that.
That's a beautiful property too. Dave has been out there planting plants and working really hard for a while now, working with different groups, working with Cardno to plant things much like they did at Hunters Point, and then working with volunteers who've helped us with our plantings as well. So it's that's going to be a beautiful space as soon as it becomes open. All right.
It might be important to note that our group doesn't really own very much of the land in question. They're owned by mostly other entities such as the Greene County Parks and Trails, Ohio Division of Wildlife, or City of Beaver Creek, City of Fairborn. We actually do own the Amen Reserve and the Hunters or the Hagenbach Reserve, but mostly others do.
That's right. And so we have really great partners in the organizations that we partner with. But yeah, Amen Reserve is an example of a property that we own, and it does have public access. It's adjacent to a subdivision, much like Hunters Point. So it's a place where you street park in that subdivision, and then you can enter the property on foot. But yeah, we have a lot of really good properties, more and more becoming more accessible with more hiking trails and things like that. And that's something that we'll be able to increase as we enter into the rest of 2020 with our Spotted Turtle Trail project. If there aren't any other questions about any of that, one of the big points of business of our annual meeting is for the membership to elect new trustees. Eric, do you want me to turn it over to you, or do you want me to go over?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Yeah, Eric's
Blythe, I'm really excited to introduce trustee candidates. Many of you, as you see from the instructions there on the slide, many of you have already voted by proxy. That's fine. You don't have to do anything else tonight. You can just relax. But I did want to just reiterate the candidates. So I'll go a little bit out of order. Dr. Amen and Mr. Dave Nolan are returning trustees. So their 3-year term has expired, and they are nominated to again be trustees to another 3-year term. Joey Manier, we're super excited to have 2 new trustee nominees to fill vacancies. So when Blythe talked earlier about the folks that we've lost, they will be filling those 2 of those 3 vacancies. So again, Dr. Amen is a microbial ecologist, a longtime professor. He's got his fingerprints figuratively all over not just the wetlands, but he has really trained as a professor a generation of wetland experts and folks. He's been involved with the organization since 1988 and has really done a little bit of everything in the organization as really a founding member and very active person. Dave Nolan is a biologist who worked for 30 years for what's now Five River Metros Park. He put over 7,000 acres under conservation. He was instrumental in building habitat. If you haven't been out to see, places like Huffman Prairie at Wright Pat, those things Dave had a strong hand in. And the same thing as we just mentioned with Pearl's Fen. So Dave's been the president now for a couple of years, and we're thrilled to have him nominated to again be a trustee. Most importantly, 2 new trustees. We've got Joey Manier, again, looking for diversity. If you're out there and you know someone or you want to be a trustee, we're looking for lots of different kinds of people from different backgrounds, different walks of life to be trustees. So Joey's an example of that, an active duty Air Force person. He enlisted in the Air Force in 2014. He became an officer in 2018. He came to Wright Pat in 2019. He's a acquisition specialist type person by training, but he's super involved in his community everywhere he's been, and he's done tutoring and financial things, but also active with causes that help animals and wildlife. And so he's a great fit for our organization, and we're excited to have him nominated to be a trustee. And then Ken Moran, again, is another very dynamic person, recently retired from the Air Force as a brigadier general. He spent 28 years in the Air Force, but he's an avid outdoors person, loves to be outside, as does his whole family. He's got a wife and 3 grown children who are all very interested in the outdoors. Ken brings a lot of skills to the table. He's a PhD engineer. He's a project manager type person. And he's thrown that into, you'll hear a little bit more, the trail project. And so already before even being elected as a trustee, Ken's been really involved with the organization and doing great things. So I just wanted to highlight those introductions really quick for you. For those folks, we're very excited to have them nominated. And so if you haven't voted, I think through the magic of technology, Blythe is going to allow you to do that now.
Yeah, so I just want to do a little lead into this before I bring the window open. If you have not yet voted by your mail-in proxy ballot and you would like to vote now during the meeting, this poll is going to be available. It's going to be up for a few minutes to give everybody a chance to respond. The poll is designed to look just like the ballot. The caveat is if the window pops up and you want to vote in it, don't close the window, because if you close the window, you can't open it up again and you'll lose that option to vote. I'm going to go ahead and start that now. You should have a poll. It should say polling 1, vote for new trustees, a small window that popped up on your screen. And there are 5 questions here. 1, acknowledging that you want to go ahead and vote by this method. And then a question for each of the 4 candidates, whether you'd like to vote for those candidates, against those candidates, or if you'd like to abstain from voting for them. I'm just going to give a few minutes for anyone who needs to vote via this feature to vote, and then we'll take it from there. Once we've collected any of these digital votes,
Blythe, you might mention that they have to answer each question before they can submit.
correct. You do have to submit a response for all 5 questions. If you're not voting, so your answer to the first question is no, you don't wish to proceed, just close the window, and that will that's the easiest way to not submit a vote. Yeah, you do have to vote for all 4. That's why you have the option to abstain from a candidate if you don't feel comfortable voting for or against them. Then just go ahead and click abstain, and that'll allow you to submit a response for all the questions. I think you can see a timer for this poll. There should be a timer progress there. We're at 1 minute. I'm going to give it 1 more minute. So at 2 minutes, I'll go ahead and close the voting. If it looks like people are still submitting responses at that point, I'll give it a little bit longer, just to make sure that we get everybody's responses before we close. Personally, I hear the Jeopardy song in my head right now as everybody is voting. Okay, it looks like the responses have trailed off, so I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. If anybody had attempted to vote and wasn't able to make that poll work, please let us know in the questions or email us. Let's see here. Well, I can go ahead and share the results. It was a unanimous yes from all of our digital voters. So thank you, everybody who voted. Yeah, if anyone has any questions about any of that, or if you had any trouble or anything like that, please let us know or get in touch with us either during the meeting or after the meeting. All right, what is next on the agenda? That's all I had for meeting business.
Well, I did want to congratulate our new trustees. So returning Jim Amon and Dave Nolan, welcome back. And Joey and Ken are our newest trustees, and we're thrilled to have them, and we can't wait to put them to work.
Yep. Dave, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
There we go. I'd like to just agree with Eric. It's great to have our new trustees on board, and also continue working with our excellent veterans. So thank you, everyone.
So it's a little anticlimactic, the virtual meeting. We don't get to sit around and chat with the members. We definitely miss seeing everybody face to face. Hopefully, we'll be able to start hosting some in-person events relatively soon, as soon as we determine a good, safe way to do that, so that people can participate in our activities. In the meantime, we're going to keep doing our work, keep working on our mission, keep stewarding these important lands, and we are available for questions, concerns. Our membership does an amazing job of coming out and helping. You guys are so giving with your time as volunteers. I get messages all the time from members who are keeping an eye on the land and keeping an eye on development in our area and things like that. And so I really appreciate all of the hard work that everybody does. So please email us with any questions at any point. You can contact us by phone. We aren't in the office as much now because of these social distancing guidelines. So if you get us a message on the phone, we might not return your message for a few days, but we will definitely get back to you. Does anyone have, Lois is asking, where are the cookies? That is exactly what I was wondering. Where are the cookies? Normally we have our meeting at the Bergamo Center, and the staff there does a great job of providing us with delicious chocolate chip cookies. And I didn't bring any virtual cookies. That'd be really funny if I did. I should have thought of that. But no virtual cookies for us in this meeting. Questions about the properties. So I see that one of the attendees is asking how many of the properties are closed. So none of our properties have closed under any of the guidelines put forth by the state or the health department or anything like that.
What is the status of CMEX?
Say that again, Dave?
I don't believe CMEX is open, is it?
CMEX, yeah, CMEX was actually closed still from last year, is that right?
I believe so, unless somebody else has updated information.
Yeah, so back last spring with the tornadoes that came through the area, Waste Management utilized the parking area at CMEX Reserve for debris storage for trees, fallen trees and branches and things like that. And I was not made aware that it had ever reopened since then. So that, you're right, that is one of our properties that you would see on our property map as being public access, but is not currently accessible. As for the rest of our properties, they are still open to the public. They're actually a wonderful place to be these days. It's outdoors, which is, health experts agree that it's a safer place to be when thinking about the coronavirus and the risks there. So we just ask that our visitors use smart social distancing precautions. Some of our boardwalks are more narrow, and that can provide a little bit of a challenge when passing other people, but in general, they're really great places to be these days. It sounds like our advisor, Art Helmstetter, he thinks that CMEX did open up this last spring, so they may have cleared that parking lot out. That's something that I'll check, and I'll make sure to get the website updated with the most recent information there. Okay. Oh, Kroger Ave. I don't know where Kroger Avenue is. Another attendee is saying that a park off of Kroger Avenue was closed off, but I don't know where that is. Does anyone know where that is? Okay. Near Garland Extension. Oh, okay. So CMEX is in that area. That might be the property that you're thinking of. It looks like, let's see, looks like Lois, do you have a question? I see this webinar structure is new for all of us. And so sometimes attendees can raise their hands, and that's what I just saw, but don't. Okay, sorry, Lois, didn't mean to call you out there for my error. Okay. All right, well, if there are no other questions, I want to thank everybody for joining us. I would love to hear feedback if everybody, what people thought of this virtual setup. Feel free to email us. We can also leave the chat open here for a few minutes if you want to provide any feedback. Otherwise, hopefully we will see everyone out in the wetlands soon. Yeah. Does anybody have anything else they want to add? Okay. All right. I want to thank everyone for joining us, and we will hopefully see everyone out there. Thanks, guys.